December 17th, 1944, 2:47 a.m. Corporal Jack Miller's hands are shaking, and it's not from the cold. He's at his compass, then at the map, then back at the road that shouldn't exist. The needle spins lazily, useless. Magnetic interference from all the steel around him, his truck, the fuel tanks, the war itself. Outside, snow falls in thick curtains, erasing his tire tracks within minutes. The forest is silent in that particular way that makes soldiers nervous. No gunfire, no engines, nothing. Jack switches off his headlights completely now, plunging into near-total darkness. Because he's just realized something that makes his stomach drop. The road he's on isn't on any Allied map. Which means one of two things. Either he's so completely lost, he's driven into unmapped Belgian wilderness, or he's found one of the roads the Germans have been using to move their forces through sectors the Allies thought were impassable. Behind him, 2,000 gallons of high-octane aviation fuel slosh in jerry cans, enough to keep a tank company mobile for 3 days, enough to change the outcome of a battle, enough to make him the most valuable target within 50 miles if the wrong people find him. He's been a truck driver for 7 months. Before that, he pumped gas in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And right now, in this moment, the entire German offensive might succeed or fail based on what he does in the next 60 seconds. Does he turn back and risk running into whatever made those engine sounds 2 miles ago? Does he push forward into the unknown? Or does he dump the fuel, destroy the truck, and try to escape on foot through 20 miles of enemy-occupied forest? His hand moves to the ignition key. This is the story of how one man's mistake became the U.S. Army's most unlikely success. How a wrong turn delivered the right thing to the right place at the exact moment when history hung in the balance. And how sometimes the difference between catastrophe and victory comes down to one person refusing to stop driving. Let's back up 12 hours. December 16th, 1944, 2:00 p.m., U.S. 8th Army Service Company Depot, 15 miles west of the German border. Corporal John Miller, everyone calls him Jack, is not supposed to be making this delivery. He's supposed to be rotating off the line for 2 weeks of rest. 7 months of non-stop driving through France and Belgium have left him with chronic back pain, a persistent cough, and reflexes so shot that he once fell asleep at a checkpoint with his foot still on the brake. He's 31 years old, which makes him ancient by Army standards. Most of the drivers in the motor pool are 19, maybe 20. They call him Pop when the sergeants aren't listening. Before the war, Jack ran a station on the outskirts of Scranton. Not owned, ran. The owner was a guy named who showed up twice a month to count the register and complain about tire inventories. Jack did everything else. Pumped gas, fixed engines, rotated tires, stayed open until midnight for the shift workers at the steel mill. He learned engines the way some people learn music, by ear, by feel. He could diagnose a failing water pump from 30 feet away just by listening to how the engine idled. Could tell you which cylinder was misfiring by the smell of the exhaust. That skill is what got him assigned to the Motor Transport Corps instead of the infantry. It's also what's keeping him alive, because drivers who can fix their own trucks in the middle of nowhere are worth more than gold in this war. But today, that skill has become a liability. The regular driver for the fuel run, a kid from Ohio named, has come down with what the medics are calling acute respiratory distress, but what everyone else knows is probably pneumonia. In this weather, in these conditions, pneumonia can kill you than a German sniper. They need someone who knows the route, someone who can handle the deuce and a half even in blizzard conditions, someone expendable enough that losing them won't cripple the motor pool. Jack checks all three boxes. The orders come down at 2:30 p.m. Full load, high-octane aviation fuel, delivery to the 7th Armored Division's forward supply point outside by 600 hours tomorrow morning. Standard run, 3 hours there, maybe 4 in this weather. Unload, grab some coffee, be back by breakfast. Except nothing about this run is standard. Because while Jack is checking his tire pressure and warming up his engine, 20 miles to the east, 200,000 German soldiers are to launch the largest offensive the Western Front has seen in months. And by the time Jack pulls out of the depot at 4:47 p.m., 13 minutes late, because one of the fuel drums was leaking and had to be replaced, the world is already beginning to change. To understand what Jack is driving into, you need to understand what's happening in the German High Command. December 1944, the war is not going well for. In the east, the Red Army is grinding toward Berlin. In the west, American and British forces have liberated France and are pushing toward the German border. The Thousand-Year Reich is in its final year, and everyone knows it. Except refuses to accept it. On December 12th, in a bunker beneath the Chancellery in Berlin, gathers his senior commanders for what he calls a decisive conference. What he unveils is audacious, desperate, and according to his own generals, borderline insane. The plan: punch through the weakly defended Ardennes forest with overwhelming force, drive to the Belgian port of Antwerp, split the Allied armies in two, and force the British and Americans into a negotiated peace. It's called Operation Rhine Watch on the Rhine, a deliberately defensive-sounding name designed to disguise its true nature. The force: 200,000 men, 1,000 tanks, 2,000 artillery pieces, 3 entire armies concealed in the forests east of the German border, hidden under camouflage netting and radio silence. The timing: December 16th, before dawn, under cover of the worst winter weather in decades. The gamble: it all depends on speed. Get to Antwerp in 7 days before the Allies can react. Capture Allied fuel depots along the way because, and this is the critical part, the Germans don't have enough fuel to get there and back. They're planning to steal their way to victory. Field Marshal Gerd, the nominal commander, thinks the plan is delusional. General calls it a desperate throw of the dice. Even the SS commanders, its most fanatical supporters, privately doubt it can succeed. But is unmoved. We will break through, he tells them. Boldness and surprise will compensate for our limitations. What doesn't know, what nobody knows yet, is that his entire offensive will ultimately stall, not because of American heroism or superior tactics or overwhelming firepower. It will stall because of logistics. Because wars aren't won by the side with the most tanks. They're won by the side that can keep those tanks moving. Jack leaves the depot at 4:47 p.m., just as the light is failing. The truck is a GMC CCKW, what everyone calls a deuce and a half, because it's rated for 2.5 tons. In reality, Jack is carrying closer to 4 tons when you count the fuel, the jerry cans, his own gear, and the spare parts he's learned to carry after 7 months of breaking down in places where help doesn't come. The engine sounds good, strong. Jack spent 20 minutes that morning changing the oil, checking the fan belt. It's a ritual he performs before every long haul, a habit from his gas station days. Take care of the machine takes care of you. The route is supposed to be simple: east on the main supply road toward, north at the crossroads, then straight into 3 hours, maybe 4 in the snow. But by 6:15 p.m., Jack knows something is wrong. The first sign: he hasn't seen another vehicle in over 40 minutes. The supply roads are usually bumper to bumper with convoys, but tonight the road is empty. Just snow and darkness and the occasional burned-out vehicle pushed into the ditch. The second sign, the checkpoints aren't where they're supposed to be. Jack passes two intersections that should have MPs directing traffic. Both are abandoned. No barriers, no guards, just tire tracks disappearing into the trees. The third sign, at 7:03 p.m., he hears them. Tank engines. Not the high-pitched whine of American, something deeper, the distinctive rumble of German diesels, Tigers or Panthers, impossible to tell from a distance. Jack kills his headlights immediately and pulls off the road behind a stand of pine trees. Sits there in the darkness, listening. The engines fade to the north, toward what should be Allied-controlled territory. His map shows that area as secure, but maps are only as good as the intelligence that makes them, and clearly something has gone very, very wrong. He sits there for 15 minutes, waiting for the sounds to fade completely. Then he makes his first critical decision. He won't turn back, not yet, because somewhere ahead, men are waiting for this fuel, men who are depending on him to show up. Take care of the machine takes care of you, but also finish what you start. It's a philosophy that served him well at the gas station. Open until you said you'd close, fix what you said you'd fix, keep your word even when it's inconvenient. Jack doesn't know it yet, but this philosophy, this stubborn, blue-collar insistence on keeping promises, is about to change the course of the largest battle the U.S. Army will ever fight. He shifts back into gear and rolls forward into the darkness. By 9:30 p.m., Jack is completely lost. Not just turned around lost, not just took a wrong turn lost, fundamentally lost in a way that makes his chest tight and his breathing shallow. The road he's on isn't on his map. He's checked 3 times, holding his red-filtered flashlight close to the paper, tracing every line, every intersection. Nothing matches. Worse, the road is showing signs of recent heavy use, deep ruts from tracked vehicles, fuel stains in the snow, the distinctive tread patterns of German half-tracks. At 10:15 p.m., he finds the first body. It's lying in a ditch, half covered with snow, German uniform, no visible wounds, probably froze to death. Jack doesn't stop, doesn't even slow down. He's seen enough bodies in 7 months to know that stopping to investigate won't tell him anything useful. But it confirms what he's been trying not to think. He's driven deep into German-controlled territory. At 11:40 p.m., he comes to a crossroads. This is where he has to make a choice. The road splits 3 ways. No signs, no markers, nothing but darkness and snow, and the growing certainty that every mile forward is a mile he'll have to retrace under even worse conditions. Jack climbs down from the cab. His legs are stiff, his back screaming from 6 hours of vibration and tension. The cold hits him like a physical blow, probably 15 below with the wind chill. He studies the 3 roads, looking for any clue. Tire tracks, but they're already filling in with snow. No way to tell if they're American or German, recent or hours old. Then he sees it, a tree at the middle fork, and carved into the bark, barely visible under a layer of ice, is something that makes his heart jump. A star painted in white, faded but unmistakable. It's an American marker. Somebody from the Corps of Engineers, probably, marking a supply route during the push through Belgium in September or October. 3 months old, maybe older, no guarantee the route is still safe or even passable. But it's something. Jack makes his decision, middle road. He climbs back into the truck, and for the first time since leaving the depot, he allows himself to think about his wife, 7 months pregnant when he shipped out. The baby would be, 4 months old now? 5? He's lost track of time. He has a photograph tucked into his helmet liner. On the porch of their apartment, one hand on her belly, squinting into the sun. He hasn't looked at it in weeks, because looking at it makes him think about how easy it would be to die out here in the snow, alone, without ever seeing his child. But he looks at it now. Then he shifts into gear and starts driving again. Because the alternative, stopping, giving up, destroying the truck, and trying to walk out, that's surrender. And Jack Miller didn't drive fuel trucks through occupied France and Belgium for 7 months just to surrender to a snowstorm. Midnight. Jack has been driving for over 7 hours. His fuel gauge is below half now, which means even if he wanted to turn back, he might not have enough gas to make it. The middle road is narrowing, trees pressing in from both sides, branches scraping the canvas cover of the truck bed. The snow is deeper here, less disturbed. He's driving by instinct now more than sight, following the subtle depression that marks where the road used to be. At 12:40 a.m., he sees the light. It's faint, flickering, maybe a quarter mile ahead through the trees. A campfire, a lantern, impossible to tell. Jack's first instinct is to kill the engine and proceed on foot to scout. But that's movie thinking, not real-world thinking. If he leaves the truck, he leaves the fuel. And if something happens to him, the fuel sits here forever, useless. So he keeps the engine running, but shifts into the lowest gear, crawling forward at maybe 5 miles per hour, ready to brake or accelerate depending on what he finds. The light resolves into a structure, a farmhouse or what's left of one, half the roof collapsed, walls pocked with bullet holes, and in what used to be the front yard, someone has built a fire in an oil drum. Figures around the fire, 4 of them, maybe 5. Jack stops about 100 yards out, engine idling, trying to make out details. The snow and darkness make it almost impossible. No way to tell if they're American or German, soldiers or civilians. He sits there for 3 full minutes, hand on the debating. Then one of the figures turns, and Jack catches a glimpse of the silhouette, the distinctive shape of a German coal scuttle helmet. His blood goes cold. He's at a German patrol, warming themselves by a fire, probably lost just like he is, waiting for dawn or new orders, or just trying not to freeze to death. And his truck, American, canvas-covered, clearly military, is sitting 100 yards away with its engine running. Jack's hand moves to the, slowly, no sudden movements that might catch their attention. But before he can shift into reverse, one of the Germans stands, says something, points. They've seen him. For a moment, nobody moves. Jack can see them clearly now in the firelight. 4 men, no 5, one was sitting down. They're at his truck, trying to figure out what they're seeing. Then one of them reaches for his rifle. Jack makes his decision in the span of a heartbeat. He doesn't reverse, he accelerates. Straight toward them. The truck lurches forward, engine roaring. Jack switches on his headlights, flooding the area with light, temporarily blinding the Germans. They scatter. One raises his rifle, but Jack is already past him, crashing through the remains of a fence, bouncing over frozen ground, threading between trees that scrape both sides of the truck, with sounds like fingernails on metal. Behind him, someone is shouting in German. A single gunshot cracks through the night, wild, panicked, nowhere close. Then he's past them, back on something that might be a road, might just be a gap in the trees, doesn't matter. He's driving flat out now, 30 miles per hour over terrain that might kill him, through darkness that hides every rock and rut and ditch. But he's alive, and he's moving, and somewhere behind him, 5 German soldiers are warming their hands by a fire, probably about whether they actually saw what they think they saw. Jack doesn't slow down for another 3 miles. 1:47 a.m., December 17th, 1944. Jack has no idea where he is. The compass is still useless. The map is a cruel joke. His fuel gauge is now at a quarter tank, which means he has maybe 60 miles before he's stranded. But something has changed. The road is wider now, more defined, and he's starting to see signs of military activity: barbed wire looped between trees, foxholes cut into the snow, the distinctive scorched pattern of white phosphorus rounds. Someone fought here recently. At 2:15 a.m., his headlights catch something that makes him hit the brakes: a proper military checkpoint. Sandbags, barbed wire, a log barrier across the road. And standing behind it, rifle raised, is a soldier in an American uniform. Jack has never been so relieved to see anyone in his entire life. He stops the truck 20 yards out, switches off the engine, doesn't want to get shot because some nervous sentry thinks he's trying to ram the checkpoint. Raises his hands where they can be seen, waits. The soldier doesn't lower his rifle. "Stay in the cab," he shouts, American accent, probably Midwest. "Do not exit the vehicle." Jack stays put. His heart is hammering because he knows what's about to happen. "Password," the soldier shouts. And Jack's mind goes completely blank. They gave him the password at the depot 12 hours ago, a lifetime ago. It was, what was it? Something simple, something American, a city name. "Philadelphia," he shouts back. The soldier doesn't move. "Wrong, try again." Jack's hands are shaking because if he can't give the right password, they're going to assume he's a German infiltrator. They've been warned about German commandos wearing American uniforms, speaking perfect English, using captured vehicles. They'll shoot him and ask questions later. His mind races. Not Philadelphia. What was it? A city, definitely a city, something on the East Coast. New York, Boston, Baltimore. Baltimore, he tries. Wrong, the soldier's finger is on the trigger now. One more chance. And then it hits him, not a city, a state. "Delaware," Jack shouts. The password is Delaware. The soldier hesitates. Then, "Advance and be recognized. Slowly, keep your hands visible." Jack climbs down from the cab, legs barely holding him, raises his hands, walks forward step by step. The soldier is young, 19, maybe 20. His hands are steady, but his eyes are exhausted. "What unit?" he demands. "8th Army Service Company, motor transport. I'm carrying fuel for the 7th Armored." The soldier stares at him. "You're 8 hours late." "I know, I got lost." "Lost? Where the hell have you been?" Jack just shakes his head. "I have no idea." The soldier finally lowers his rifle. Another soldier emerges from a foxhole, a sergeant, older, maybe 30. He walks around Jack's truck, inspecting it, then looks at the fuel drums in the back. "Is that what I think it is?" he asks quietly. "High-octane aviation fuel," Jack confirms, 2,000 gallons. The sergeant's expression changes. "You need to talk to Lieutenant Winters now." This is where the story gets complicated, because what Jack has stumbled into is not the forward supply point at. That position fell to the Germans 8 hours ago. What he's found instead is something the official records will later describe as an defensive position established by elements of the 7th Armored Division and attached units during the German winter offensive. In plain English, it's a last stand. Lieutenant Robert Winters, no relation to the famous paratrooper, is 26 years old and has been in command of this position for exactly 36 hours. He inherited it when his company commander was killed in the initial German assault. He's holding a crossroads that doesn't have a name on any map. 3 roads converge here, all of them leading to larger supply routes. If the Germans take this crossroads, They have a clear run to the fuel depot at Spa, which contains 2.5 million gallons of fuel. Winters has 214 men, 6 tanks, all immobile due to lack of fuel, 4 anti-tank guns, and enough ammunition for maybe 3 hours of sustained combat. He's been ordered to hold until relieved. Nobody has told him when relief is coming. When Jack is brought to the command post, a frozen cellar in a destroyed farmhouse, Winters is studying a map by candlelight. He looks up when Jack enters. "You're the fuel truck." "Yes, sir, 2,000 gallons, high octane." Winters stares at him for a long moment. "Do you have any idea what you just did?" "Sir, I got lost. I was trying to reach." "You just saved 214 men," Winters interrupts. "Those tanks out there, they've been dead for 36 hours. My orders are to hold this position, but I can't hold anything without mobile armor. I was about to order a withdrawal." Jack doesn't know what to say to that. Winters stands, walks to the doorway, looks out at the pre-dawn darkness. "The Germans are out there. I can hear them moving. They're for a dawn assault. They know we are low on fuel. Hell, they're probably counting on it. They think they can roll right through us." He turns back to Jack. "How long to refuel the tanks?" "In this cold, 45 minutes, maybe an hour." Winters checks his watch. "It's 3:20 now. Dawn is at 7:15. We need those tanks mobile before first light." He calls for his tank commanders. 5 men stumble into the cellar, faces blackened with exhaust soot and frostbite. "We're getting fuel," Winters tells them. "I want every tank topped off and in position by 600. Engines warm, guns loaded. When the Germans come, I want them to think they've walked into a trap." One of the tank commanders, a corporal named Vincent, grins. It's the first smile Jack has seen in hours. "Sir," Vincent says, "we're going to make them regret waking up this morning." December 17th, 1944, 5:47 a.m. They are fueled, engines are running, warming up, and the sound, that low, powerful rumble, is like music to men who have spent 2 days trapped behind steel coffins. Jack is supposed to leave. His orders were to deliver the fuel and return to the depot, but Lieutenant Winters won't let him go. "Road's not safe," he says. "Too much German activity. You'll wait until we secure the area." So Jack sits in his truck, engine off to conserve fuel, wrapped in every blanket he can find, watching as the defensive position transforms. The move into hull-down positions, dug into the snow so only their turrets are visible. The anti-tank guns are repositioned to cover the approaches. Machine gun nests are reinforced with sandbags scrounged from destroyed buildings. And the men, exhausted, half-frozen, running on coffee and fear, suddenly have purpose again. Because now they have a chance. At 6:52 a.m., a scout returns. Movement on the East Road, column of vehicles, at least a dozen, heading this way. Winters passes the word, "Hold fire until they're committed. I want them close." Jack watches from his truck as the German column appears out of the dawn mist. Half-tracks, trucks, a few Panthers, the big German tanks that can punch through us armor like paper. They're moving confidently, expecting an easy victory, expecting to find abandoned positions or scattered resistance. What they find instead is a wall of fire. They open up first, 5 tanks firing in sequence, the muzzle flashes turning the snow orange. The lead German half-track explodes, blocking the road. The vehicles behind pile up, confused, trying to reverse. Then the anti-tank guns join in, then the machine guns. It's not a battle, it's an execution. The Germans scatter, trying to find cover, but they're caught in the open on a narrow road with nowhere to go. Some try to return fire, but they're shooting blind. suppressed by the sheer volume of American fire. Within 3 minutes, it's over. The surviving Germans retreat, leaving behind burning vehicles and bodies in the snow. Lieutenant Winters stands on the lip of his foxhole, binoculars to his eyes, watching them go. Then he turns to Jack. "That fuel you brought, it just bought us another day." But Jack is at the burning vehicles, thinking about the German patrol by the fire, thinking about how easily that could have been him if he'd made different choices. "Sir," he says quietly, "I was just trying to do my job." Winters looks at him for a long moment. "Corporal, sometimes doing your job is the most important thing in the world." What Jack Miller doesn't know, what nobody at that crossroads knows, is that his accidental delivery is part of a larger pattern. All across the Ardennes, the German offensive is stalling, not because of heroic stands or brilliant tactics, but because of logistics. The elite SS unit that was supposed to lead the breakthrough has run out of fuel outside of. The commander makes the agonizing decision to abandon his vehicles and escape on foot. Near, the 101st Airborne is surrounded but holding. German tanks circle the town like sharks, but they can't break through because they're running on fumes. At Ridge, American artillery is firing in record numbers, but only because someone managed to get ammunition trucks through at the last minute. The pattern repeats across the entire front. Desperate American units holding on by their fingernails, supplied at the last possible moment by men who refused to turn back. Truck drivers, medics, cooks, mechanics, the unglamorous rear echelon troops who kept the machine running. By December 22nd, 5 days after Jack's delivery, the German offensive has reached its high-water mark. They've created a bulge in the Allied lines, but they haven't broken through. And now the weather is clearing. American aircraft can fly again. Supplies are pouring in. The Third Army under is smashing into the German flank. The begins to retreat. They leave behind hundreds of tanks and vehicles, abandoned for lack of fuel. Some are blown up by their own crews to prevent capture. Others are simply left in the snow-frozen monuments to last gamble. The Battle of the Bulge will continue for another month, but the outcome is no longer in doubt. The German army will never launch another major offensive in the West. Jack Miller returns to the depot on December 19th, 2 days late, driving an empty truck through roads that are now secure. He files his after-action report. It's 3 pages long, mostly concerned with mechanical issues and fuel consumption. He mentions getting lost. He does not mention the German patrol or the battle or the men whose lives might have been saved by his delivery. He doesn't think it's important. In January 1945, Lieutenant Winters writes a commendation. It sits in a file at the depot for 2 months before someone finally processes it. By then, the war is almost over. Jack receives a letter of appreciation. No medal, no promotion, just a letter. He doesn't care, he's going home. On May 9, 1945, the day after Germany surrenders, Jack Miller stands on the deck of a transport ship in Southampton Harbor, waiting to go home. He thinks about the wrong turn, the German patrol, the crossroads he never meant to find. He thinks about Lieutenant Winters and Corporal Vincent and the 214 men who lived to see another day. And he thinks about all the other Jack Millers out there, the mechanics who fixed tanks in the middle of firefights, the medics who ran into enemy fire, the cooks who made hot food in frozen fields, the who stayed at their posts through artillery barrages. The ones who didn't pull triggers, but pulled weight. The ones who never made the history books, but made the history. Jack Miller comes home to Scranton on June 3, 1945, meets him at the train station with their son, 8 months old, named John Miller. He gets his old job back at the station, works there for 32 years, retires in 1977 with a pension and a gold watch. He dies in 1989, age 76, surrounded by his family. At his funeral, his grandson, a college student studying history, tells the story of the wrong turn, how his grandfather got lost and accidentally saved a battalion. Most of the mourners have never heard it before. Because Jack Miller never talked about the war, not because he was traumatized or ashamed, but because to him it wasn't a story worth telling. He got lost, he found his way, he delivered what he was supposed to deliver. That's all. Just doing the job. Here's what I want you to take from this story. It's not that Jack Miller was a hero. He'd be the first to tell you he wasn't. It's not that one delivery changed the course of the war. History is more complicated than that. What matters is this: when faced with an impossible situation, Jack kept going. He didn't have perfect information. He didn't have a clear path forward. He didn't know if he was making the right choice. But he refused to stop. That principle, that stubborn, unglamorous commitment to finishing what you start, is what actually wins wars, not brilliant tactics or superior firepower. The simple, daily choice to keep going when everything tells you to quit. Today, that crossroads in the Ardennes is farmland again. No monument, no plaque. The forest has reclaimed the foxholes. The only evidence that anything happened there is a few shell fragments and some rust-stained snow when winter comes. But the principle remains. Sometimes the path that saves everything is the one you were never meant to take. Sometimes history doesn't need a hero. It just needs someone who refuses to quit.